President Grimson, distinguished audience. It's a pleasure to be here and share some thoughts with you. I will spend my few minutes pointing in 4 directions. There will be more where the science should go in the future, but I will lift out 4 potentially avenues for further work. I'll start with showing the logo of IPY. It's 7 years ago that we had a very successful initiative called International Polar Year that most of us know very well. It was a fundamental principle in IPY that projects should be truly international. It was impossible by one nation alone to make that effort. That was important for IPY. It's still important because the questions we have ahead in the Arctic, they need collaboration among many nations to solve. So bold questions that we really are up front of, they require collaborative answers. I'm not advocating a new IPY. However, I'm advocating to keep some of the spirit in IPY and also some of the structure in IPY into future Arctic research. I think there is still potential, even though there is lots of international efforts going on, there is still potential to raise that somewhat. And structural-wise, I think the biggest challenge is the funding agencies. They succeedingly, they with success managed during IPY to have multinational funding. And this is today a challenge, and I would address the funding agency to be especially aware of that issue. My second avenue is the two-way communication between the Arctic and what we often call the rest of the world, which is quite important, by the way. We know that the Arctic is affected the most by climate change. That is from the rest of the world to the Arctic. We also know that the Arctic change is influencing the rest of the world. However, this is a new study area. It's early days, and we still don't have full understanding of how this interplay between the lower latitudes and the high latitudes are. And also built into that, the interplay between climate, the long-term changes, and weather. And during a breakout session earlier at this conference, I showed this figure, which is in a way describing the old Arctic, where we had a closed Arctic and the cold air in the Arctic due to the circum-Arctic atmospheric circulation was protecting the rest of the world from the Arctic. Due to weaker temperature differences, we don't have that situation anymore. We have a more diffuse circum-Arctic circulation pattern, which actually can give us weather events that are going in the cooling direction. We need, and the world needs, to understand how this coupling is. So this two-way communication is of major importance for Arctic scientists to address. My third point is that we have I would say, dramatic lack of data from the Winther, knowledge about the Winther. We have had a very strong program from the Soviet Union with drifting ice stations, starting already in the 30s and then later by Russia. That has been the continuity for all-round data collection in the Arctic Ocean. We had SHIBA, we had also during IPY some efforts, but we still today don't have a continuous data collection and a comprehensive one from the Arctic Ocean. And the drifting ice station program from Russia has been interrupted for a while due to the situation with the ice. Now I heard and learned that this will be continued again, and I'm very glad to hear that. I will also just inform that the Norwegian Polar Institute will freeze in its research vessel Lanse in January of 2015 and make a drift for half a year to be part of this data collection from the Winther that I think the scientific community really needs. One idea that I wanted to launch is if we in the future, because of the thin ice and the weak ice, maybe not are able to use ice floes as platforms for winter observations, need to switch to using vessel. And why not establishing an international initiative with a vessel or several vessels in the Arctic Ocean all year round, and make that a truly international effort. The last point, my number 4, is that the rapidity of change that happens today we have nothing like it to compare with, and it really challenges us as scientific community and also climate modelers. What will be, to use a military term, the end state? We don't know really. And this is something the world will ask us repeatedly in the coming years. What will the end of this look like? IPCC, with its projections for the sea ice situation, the sea ice coverage as shown here, at the end of this century, gives us some scenarios dependent on the emissions, but we need to improve our skills and our models to be better off to projecting the future. This goes also for sea level. Here again, a figure from IPCC. There is a range now of scenarios and projections for what will future bring, and the Arctic scientific community has a special responsibility, I think, on behalf of the whole world, to address these issues and to solve some of the uncertainty that we still have. And then it goes also, of course, for the ecosystem and the biological system, not only for the physical one. This is a 10-year-old figure from ICIA. However, what's happening in the ocean and with the ecosystem is under dramatic change these days, and we really don't know how it will look in the future. If you turn on the temperature with 2 degrees C, and stabilizes there, we don't know what the end state is, and this is something we should pay especially attention to. Thank you for your attention.